Hey, welcome to Great History Show. I'm Mohammed, and today we got Baran and Tuna out in the studio. What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Hey people.
Today we are digging into history of discovery of the New World. So why did explorers back then decide to set sail randomly into the ocean?
I mean, it wasn't exactly random. In the late 15th century, European explorers were on a mission to find new trade routes to Asia. And before that, they were cruising down the Silk Road, trading with Eastern civilizations and all that.
Until, the Ottoman Empire swooped in and captured the west of the Silk Road. That pretty much killed the trade between Europe and Asia. So, since everyone was still chasing that wealth dream, they had to figure out different routes for trading.
So, who were the leading figures finding these new routes?
In comes Christopher Columbus, the dude who accidentally stumbled upon the New World but thought he'd accidentally landed in India.
Well, Columbus opened the floodgates for more European exploration. Other adventurers like Amerigo Vespucci, John Cabot, and Vasco da Gama started making their way around, mapping out new territories.
Yeah, and at one point it wasn't just about finding trade routes anymore. These guys were also fueled by desire for new territory, resources, and let's be honest, a bit of that conquering glory.
So, did they find what they were looking for?
Oh, they sure did. Columbus's voyages sparked what we now call the Columbian Exchange. It was this crazy swap of plants, animals, and diseases between the Old World and the New World.
Imagine tomatoes, potatoes, and chocolate making their way to Europe, while horses, cows, and smallpox headed west.
That's wild, but not all these interactions were friendly, right?
Oh, definitely not. The collision of these two worlds led to conflicts and changes in the power dynamics. Like the Spanish conquistadors, for example, they were all about that gold and glory. They explored and, well, conquered parts of Americas, often with not so great consequences for the native populations.
We had guys like Hernan Cortes who rolled up to the Aztec Empire in the early 16th century, and as you can probably imagine, he was heading there for conquest, which he didn't have the friendliest of intentions. He was all about gold and claiming new territories.
And let's not forget the impact on the indigenous cultures. Like European diseases like smallpox, they wreaked havoc because the locals just didn't have any immunity. It's such a tragic side of the story that gets often overlooked.
Sounds terrible, but what about other explorers? Any notable stories there?
Absolutely. Take Ferdinand Magellan, for instance. He led the first expedition to circumnavigate the globe. The guy didn't make it all the way, but his crew did, and I still think that's a massive achievement.
And then there's Henry Hudson. He was searching for a northwest passage to Asia and ended up sailing into what we know as New York. Dude got really lost.
So that's how it was discovered?
Yeah, exactly.
We never talk about Africa today. What's going on over there?
There was the transatlantic slave trade. The demand for cheap labor in the Americas led to the forced migration of millions of Africans to go overseas and work there for not even pennies at this point, just some nuts and crackers at that point. It it's a painful part of history that we for sure cannot ignore.
History can be cruel sometimes.
Oh, for sure, dude. History can really be cruel. As for the explorers kept establishing colonies, the competition really started to climb.
Right, and that led to formation of European empires. How did they play out?
Well, it was a bit of a scramble for dominance. The Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, and British were all in the action, staking their claims and establishing new colonies.
Everyone wanted a piece of the pie. You had the Portuguese, dominating the sea routes to the east. The Spanish claiming territories in the Americas, the English jumping into the mix because they just can't resist some good slaves and some cheap labor, and surprisingly, the Dutch got a good portion of the pie as well.
And let's not forget the spice trade. The race for exotic spices was like the ancient version of a Black Friday sale.
But seriously, did these guys ever once sit down for a friendly chat and work things out?
I mean, not really. It was more like a land grab. There was the Treaty of Tordesillas. They tried to divide the new discovered lands between Spain and Portugal, but other European powers weren't having it.
And speaking of the not having it, let's talk about the impact on the environment. All these new trade routes and exploration came at a cost, right?
Oh, absolutely! Talk about a hefty cost! The environment wasn't exactly throwing a party. Deforestation, overhunting, and drastic change in the ecosystems were side effects of the age of exploration.
So were they NRS that managed to evade all this European conquest?
Yeah, some regions managed to maintain their independence, like the Ottoman Empire, for instance, held its ground in the eastern Mediterranean against European powers. Well, until World War One, which led to the death of the empire.
And then there's China. Surprisingly, it was a powerhouse, not just economically but also technologically. They were like, we got our own thing going on.
Nice. It's interesting to see how different parts of the world were handling this era of exploration. Okay, we are cruising through history here, but let's not forget about the sailors themselves. What was life like for these people out there on the high seas?
Oh, it was no luxury cruise, that's for sure. Like, these sailors faced storms, diseases, and the constant fear of the unknown. Plus, cramped quarters, bad food, and scurvy were all part of the package.
But on the positive side, they were discovering new things, experiencing different cultures, and making history.
True. Now, how did this age of exploration set the stage for the modern world?
Well, it laid the foundation for globalization. The world we see today has its root in these early explorations with goods, ideas, and cultures spreading across the globe.
And don't forget the technological advancements. Navigational tools, ship designs, and cartography all got major upgrades during this era of exploration.
That's awesome!
It was a game changer that shaped the world we live in today.
Now, let's talk about the economic side of the things. What was the deal with all these precious metals flowing back to Europe?
Oh, Europe had it all, my guy. Gold, silver, you name it, they had it. The Americas were like a treasure trove, and European powers just couldn't get enough. The influx of precious metals led to economic changes, inflation, and of course, the rise of capitalism.
It was like a massive gold rush, but on the global scale. The quest for the wealth was reshaping the world's economic landscape.
Now, dive into that impact of this era on arts and culture.
Absolutely. The age of exploration wasn't just about ships and maps, it was a period of artistic flourishing too.
Well, if I had to say one word to sum up the artistic side, Renaissance. This era saw a rebirth of creativity in Europe. Thanks to all the money they had, they didn't have to worry about things like the cost of living, for example, so they could focus more on spiritual things like art, music, etc. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael were creating masterpieces that celebrated the human spirit. And the cool thing is, this creativity wasn't confined to Europe. Think about the intertwining of artistic styles from different cultures through the Columbian exchange.
Wow, that's great. So, how did the religion play into all this exploration and colonization?
Ah, religion was a big player in this game. European powers often justified their quests with the idea of spreading Christianity. Missionaries were out there converting and, sometimes clashing with the local beliefs.
Alright, guys, that's going to be it for today, and I'll see you later.
See you later, my
Bye,
guy.
man.